fascism right here and now in the form of the Biden-Harris administration, who are conducting a genocide. There's no greater sign of fascism than genocide. The Democrats are not the solution. They are part of the problem. The American public is with us. The world is with us. And the eyes of the world are watching. And they want to shut down this genocide. They want to end the flow of weapons. They want to end the assault on Lebanon.
The coming Kamala Harris administration, the current Biden administration, they're sending a clear message that genocide is okay.
The world is in agreement on this. The only ones who are not in agreement is our criminal warmongering leadership, who should be in The Hague. They should not be walking the streets of America as the war criminals that they are, responsible for 200,000 murders and 2 million people who are being tortured every day in Gaza.
I support Jill Stein because she's the first presidential candidate that I feel like shares the voice of the Middle Eastern people. We do make up a large portion of this country, but unfortunately it's as if our voices are never heard, and finally we have a candidate that actually respects who we are.
We have the power to shut this down, to end empire, to end the squandering of our precious tax dollars, which are being spent on endless war after endless war.
For the first time, as Middle Easterners, we feel like our voices are heard from the presidential candidate. Thank you so much.
So awesome. Forget the lesser evil. Fight for the greater good. We have that right here and now in our campaign.
It's very clear that the two-party system is corrupt. Both sides have become a genocidal oligarchy, and we can't stand for it anymore.
Thanks to everyone who's out there in support of ending this genocide in Gaza now.
This is Jill Stein, and I approve this message.
Wow. 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 Talk about an ad that hits you. Boom. I mean, just gets you right there. Very, very well put together. The only quibble, the only thing I have with this, and I'm going to play a little segment of it where you saw the two American girls, dressed in the veil and everything. That's perfectly fine. But when they said that for the first time as Middle Easterners, they felt recognized, it sort of felt to me sort of that Michelle Obama-ish, type of, for the first time I was proud to be an American, when after her husband, Barack Obama becomes president. It just shows you, that would have been so much harder hitting if these two girls, these women would have just basically come out and said, as Americans. And then you can talk about Middle Easterners. I am very, very big on not hyphenating heritage and ethnicities with America. Like, I don't like when people say Japanese American, Chinese American, Italian American, French American, Spanish American, Mexican American, Latino American. I hate that. Indian American, Pakistan. I hate that. I can't stand that. It should always be American first, because most people aren't just American and one other nationality. They're mixtures of many. Like, for example, myself, Indian, Pakistani, Persian, Arabic, Turkish, all mixed in. So what am I going to say? I'm like, 5 things and then American? No, American first. Then go ahead and list to your heart's content whatever you want to talk about. So that was my only little thing. So when you're watching this thing here, just listen to this and tell me what you think.
Endless war.
For the first time, as Middle Easterners, we feel like our voices are heard from the presidential candidate. Thank you so much.
So awesome. Forget the lesser evil.
See, doesn't play that well with me. It just doesn't. It just feels like, there's other. It's like American and then, something else. I think this would have been so much more impactful, because then because it's Americans. It's just like when they're talking about the Arab American vote. It's not the Muslim American vote. It's Arab Americans in that American Arabs, in that demography, in that demographic group. You've got, yes, majority Muslims, but you've got Christians in that American Arab group. You've got Jews in that Christian American, in that American Arab group. You've got Druze in that American Arab, group. And you have, some agnostic and atheists and Coptic Christians and a whole bunch of other people all encapsulated in that American Arab group. It's not just, it is predominantly Muslim, no doubt about that. But are you going to also not talk about the black Muslims who are part of the American Arab group as well? I mean, Kamala, doesn't she like to talk about Venn diagrams and the intersection with everything? Of course. Now, what I want to show you next, folks, is a speech that was done by Dr. Jill Stein in Michigan, along with the group, not the uncommitted group that are uncommitted, because I think those still, many of them are still bought and paid for by the Democratic Party, and it's just a way of saying, oh, okay, all right, we can vote. Our conscience is clear now. We've got a clear conscience because we voted uncommitted. We went into the voting booth, shut that screen, and we hit that knob, and we pulled the lever for uncommitted. Hallelujah. I did it. I voted uncommitted. And then what are they going to do? They're going to go straight in that booth, and they're going to pull the lever for Kamala Harris. How do you do that, folks? How do you do that? Let me ask you something. Was just genocide being done under the watch of President Trump? Hell no. Under the Republican Party administration? Hell no. Now, granted, money has been sent overseas for a long time by both parties. We all know that. But if you want to just talk about facts, the past 3.5 years, you want to call this a genocide, out of proportionality attacks in terms of defending your country, and these are all the things that you're hurling at the Israeli and the state of Israel and the Israeli people and the IDF and all of that, then you can't be intellectually dishonest and saying, okay, what have you got to lose? Trump came in, he signed 3 peace treaties, Qatar, UAE, and I'm trying to think who the other one was. But there were 3 Abrahamic Accords, I believe, that were signed, peace treaties. Might have been Egypt, I'm not sure. Let me know down if you've got that one inside. It's not coming to my mind right now. But the Abrahamic Accords, he did something. I wonder what these people are going to think when Trump wins the election, gets involved, and decides, and there's something that is done to stop this genocide. I wonder what these people are going to be thinking then, folks. Because right now, it's like Trump when he went into the black church and says, listen, what have you got to lose? You've already tried it the Democratic way. You've already tried it the neocon way, both in the Republican and the Democratic Party. You've seen what it was when my way, no wars, no genocide, no nothing during my 4 years, 2016 to 2020. That's what Trump has to say. You have seen what's happened from 2020. As soon as I left office, genocide, bombings, war, everything. They decide they knew Trump out of the way, time to play. What do they say? When the cat's away, the mice will play, right? Now, Jill Stein had a really, really nice long speech. I just want to play you a little clip of it. And then once that's over, I want to show you something from The Hill, folks, which is talking, it was a day ago. This is from The Hill. It's another video clip that will showing how much danger Kamala Harris is in losing Michigan, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and the other swing states because of the American Arab vote. And within that demographic, obviously, the Muslim vote, which falls underneath that umbrella, okay? So let's go to Jill Stein. Listen to this, folks.
Free Palestine.
Palestine will free us. We refuse to vote for Palestine. Well, let me fix that. We refuse to vote for genocide in Palestine. We refuse. We refuse to be talked into selling our souls, into compromising, into being talked, into affirming, endorsing, and enabling genocide. And when we are asked to please, won't we be quiet? Won't we just shut up and sit down? Won't we just be good little boys and girls? Because truly the Democratic Party owns our votes. They own Muslim votes, they own Black votes, they own youth votes, they own so-called liberal votes. But they don't. They have to earn our votes. Any politician who tells you that they own your vote does not deserve consideration of your vote. The Democrats are running scared, and they should be scared. They could fix this if they wanted. They could win back the Muslim vote, but they would rather lose the election. They would rather lose the election than stop the genocide. This is on them. They want to blame Muslims. They want to blame Greens. They want to blame socialists. They want to blame anybody, but just take the focus off of their genocide. Democrats have been losing votes profoundly. When was the big tipping point? It was actually in 2010 in the midterm elections, when they lost 1,000 seats in state legislatures across the country. They lost 64 seats in Congress. They lost 13 seats in the Senate. They lost 13 governorships.
You know what Jill Stein, she says, is so true. Barack Obama, in the first midterms when he was elected after 2008, in 2010, Barack Obama presided over the one of, I think, if not the worst, one of the worst. And so in modern times, absolutely the worst defeat of an incoming first-term president for his first midterms. It was so bad, they lost 1,200 seats at the local, municipal, and state legislature level, folks. It was somewhere, they said, between 12 and 1,300 seats. I think Jill's off a little bit on her numbers. I mean, it was a devastating blow. Devastating in terms of what was happening. As she said, 64 seats in Congress switched, folks. 64 seats. People don't realize this. This was all that gathering storm that led to President Trump and his victory in 2016. So this is 6 years before the tsunami was starting. 13 seats in the Senate. 13 seats they lost. And 13 governorships. You don't think that they're scared right now of what's happening with the American Arab vote? And within that demographic, as I've said, you really don't think so? You want to know what's happening in Georgia with the Muslims there? And what people don't understand is that when they're talking about that she's losing votes in the Black population all across, men and women, now, she's going to get the majority of the vote, but she needs to be in the 90s. Barack Obama was in the mid-90s, 95, 96% he got the Black vote. Hillary Clinton, I think, was right at 89, 90%. Biden was around 92, I believe. Well, right now, I've been hearing things where Kamala's are like, you know, in the mid-70s, 78, 80. Even if she's at 85, folks, that's a big, big hit. Black men under the age of 50, 1 out of 4 voting for Kamala Harris. Black women, 8% Kamala Harris. And within that black population, you've got another subset population of black men who happen to be Muslim. Where do you think their vote is going to? Now, listen to this video of where this reporter is talking about this a day ago. So today is, just to make sure here we haven't changed anything. Today is I just got to make sure. I'm sorry, folks. It's been a long day. It's the 8th, October 8th, 2024. This is from yesterday, talking about the huge Arab population in Michigan, in Georgia, and just think also, folks, that largest contingent of American Palestinians in Chicago, about 85,000. Now, Trump isn't going to win Chicago. He's not going to win Illinois. But he doesn't need to win those states. But the demographic and the way that they're going to be voting. You think the Palestinians in Chicago, you think that the Palestinian contingent in Dearborn, Michigan, in Hamtramck, Michigan, in Georgia, are going to say, oh, those Palestinians in Chicago that's blue, we're all different than them. No, it doesn't happen that way in demographics and political circles. It's a wave trend. In that same demographic, they vote the same way. That's exactly what's going to happen. So check this out, folks. Watch this video from this journalist at The Hill, and then we'll go into the article behind it. Check this out.
Arab American voters and also Jewish American voters, a big population of Arab American voters, for example, in Michigan, much of the Midwest, but also a large population of Jewish American voters in New York, where there's a number of contentious House races happening. Do you see this conflict, impacting turnout or results in the election?
Yeah, certainly there are indications that it very well could. As I mentioned, you have this uncommitted voter movement that played a big role in the primaries and sort of getting folks to write in these protest votes against President Biden. That movement now shifting over to Vice President Harris has said that it's not going to endorse a candidate. It didn't endorse Vice President Harris, but it said, that it couldn't support endorsing Trump or encouraging voters to back Trump. You have this separate abandon Harris movement of Arab American voters who have come out and said that they're backing Jill Stein, the third party candidate. So it'll be interesting to see how much bearing that has. But I think that's a sign, certainly, that there is a block of voters who are certainly concerned enough about the White House's support for Israel, given what's happening in Gaza, that they're trying to nudge some folks away from backing the Democratic ticket. And certainly, as you mentioned, Jewish American voters are also going to play a big role in this election, both in swing states and down ballot races. Certainly Jewish voters are not a monolith. Not every Jewish voter believes that support for Israel is sort of a benchmark for them in their support. But that's sort of how former President Trump has presented it. This idea that he's such a pro-Israel president in his first term that Jewish American voters should then back him. We've seen President Biden and Vice President Harris say that their support for Israel is unwavering, while also calling for more humanitarian aid into Gaza. So certainly it'll be, I think, as you said, there's still a lot going on in the Middle East, a lot of tensions there. I'm sure this will be something we'll continue to hear about in this last few weeks before the election.
So there you have it, folks. I've been sounding these alarm bells for months now. Mainstream media, legacy media is really not talking about it. I mean, you saw bits and pieces of it, but when they do, they sort of cherry pick the data from the polls, like the Arab American Institute. You saw, Joyless Reed talk about that it was basically the same, 42% to 41% in favor of Donald Trump with American Arab voters. But what she failed to say, and she left it out, a lie of omission, was that likely voters, he's up 46 to 42%. I left that out. That's a big, big freaking swing, 4 points. She also didn't mention the fact in terms of the CARE poll that came out from Dr. John Zogby. I mean, Zogby polls, come on, folks. You can't get much better than that. Talking about how the race is shifting, that these Muslim American Arabs are backing Jill Stein. 40+% in Michigan. Trump's got 18%. Trump's got 18%, folks. Kamala Harris has got 12 in Michigan. In the state of, I believe, in Nevada, Trump's at 29% of the Muslim vote. Harris is at 27%. I could go on and on with these figures. He doesn't need to win the entire Muslim vote. Trump doesn't need it. He just needs a shift in a few points and a shift away from Kamala Harris to go to Jill Stein. Remember, Jill Stein was not on the ticket in 2020. If she was, Trump is president. We're not even having this discussion today. You all know it. But the Democrats put her in such an unbelievable position of having to defend herself in Congress and other places, saying that she was a puppet of Russia. She was a Putin, chameleon candidate. And she had to spend hundreds and thousands of her own dollars and time defending herself against these absurd political attacks. How much millions and millions of dollars they spent attacking her so she couldn't really put together. And then COVID with everything else going on. You know how hard it is for third-party candidates every single year to try to get on the ballots. And with COVID and everything and her defending herself, just couldn't do it. And it's the Democrats, the ones that talk about democracy. Well, they're the ones that, look at what they're trying to do with the RFK. First, they didn't want him. They were fighting him to keep him off the ballots. Then once he got on the ballots, they still kept going after him, tying him up in court, spending ungodly amounts of money to try to stay on the ballots. Then when he decided to come off the ballots, they knew that was going to hurt him. They were putting attorneys and people in place to make sure that he stayed on the ballots. So I believe he's still on the ballot in Michigan, but he's off the ballot in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, I believe. And I'm not sure. I mean, it's just unbelievable what these Democrats, whatever they say about the other people, just put up a mirror in front of them, because all they're doing is reflecting upon themselves. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasser. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow. You all know what to do. Take a look at our other video links. We got so many things out there. Remember, I got Trump at 345 electoral votes, Kamala Harris 193. Give you the latest update every single day of what's happening. Hasn't changed so far. Hasn't changed for a long time. My final thought is always, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.